So, we are talking about courage, and the first verse, I like to normally go to the Bible, and the first verse I thought of was Joshua 1:9. It says, "Have I not commanded you, be strong and courageous, do not be terrified, do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go." And I think it's from there that C.S. Lewis in Mere Christianity kind of gets his definition for courage. And he says that courage encompasses both the ability to face danger and to endure pain or hardship with resilience. He says there's almost two kinds of courage. One is maybe what you think of a military soldier who's in battle, and he's courageous because he's running right into the face of danger, not running away. And that's his mission, and he's doing that with courage. And then there's a second one, which sounds a little different. It says, enduring pain or hardship with resilience. And that can be a whole lot of things, big or small. It makes me think of a trial that maybe you're experiencing, and maybe it's a trial that's lasting a week, or maybe it's a trial that's lasting years, and that God is commanding us, have I not commanded you, to be courageous in that trial, and to continue going to Him for in prayer for hope, and asking for courage to continue enduring with resiliency throughout your trial, no matter how long it lasts and how it's resolved. And so I just thought, once you guys thinking of like two different kinds of courage, and then maybe we're gonna let Brennan share like a little personal story, and you'll kind of hear, hopefully, one of the examples of one of the types of courage through his story. And I'll let him kind of go ahead and share, and then maybe we'll talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, so most of you guys know I played football in college, and most of you also know that I'm back now and I'm not playing anymore. So Caleb just kind of wanted me to share the story of kind of how that looked and essentially why I'm back and kind of what it all really looked like. And so for the last year of school and being at Furman and having to juggle school, football, personal life, just about everything that you can at the same time. I also had, coaches that were on all of us every single day. And I just kind of struggled in a couple little ways, and but nothing that nobody hasn't already done. And I've seen, everybody has to go through the same things essentially, and that's really what it felt like, and that's what kind of state I felt like what I was in was, it happens to everybody. It's just the way it goes, and you just kind of got to push through it. And so kind of for the last half a year to the year or so, I wasn't sure if I wanted to keep playing anymore. I wasn't sure if really I kind of loved it anymore like I had used to, and I didn't enjoy it anymore, and I didn't enjoy waking up at 5 a.m. to go freeze my butt off in the snow and practice and get hit when I'm freezing cold, and it just feels like your bones shatter a little bit. So I was just really struggling with the fact that, am I where I feel like God wants me to be right now? And so for a really long time, I don't know what the reason exactly was, but for a long time I couldn't really sleep very well. And like on top of all that stuff, like you need sleep more than anything. And so I finally just started going to God in my bed at night, however long I stayed up until I fell asleep, and just kind of wrestled with the question, do you want me here really? And kind of what would it look like if I were to go home or were to stay and kind of keep pushing through what I was going through, and what I felt I was, was really kind of affecting my life in a lot of ways. And so I felt led enough to actually go and talk to my coaches one day and tell them that I didn't want to play anymore, and I was so scared. Oh my gosh, I was terrified. I was thinking about what's everybody at home gonna think about me, what's my teammates gonna think, what are my coaches gonna say back to me. There was a million different things that was going through my mind all those nights that I was thinking about it, praying about it, talking to myself about it. I talked to my parents about it, Cecil a little bit about it, so I just kept praying, and I felt like the Lord was leading me back home, and that He had a plan for me, and like it was so scary. Like staying in football, I felt like I had my whole life planned out ahead of me, and it, in my eyes, essentially looked perfect. Like I felt like it couldn't get any better than the way that it was going, and I'd have a job after football, and like I'd have learned all these lessons and done all these awesome things, and I wasn't sure if God was calling me away from that. And so the day I go and speak to my coaches, I was so scared. I walked into my first coach's office. He's the tight end coach. In my head, I was meeting with 3 coaches. I had to meet with him, then our offensive coordinator, and then our head coach. So I had 3 scary meetings I had to go into. So I texted my position coach the night before, and I was like, "Can we meet tomorrow?" And he's like, "Is everything good?" And I just liked his message and went to sleep. I woke up and I go over to his office, and he wasn't in there, so I went down to the locker room and just kind of hung down there a little bit and prayed because I was literally shaking, and go back upstairs, and he was finally there. And this coach has kind of been on me for really since I had walked in there, and it's just kind of the way he was to everybody that he personally coached, like all the tight ends. Like I've had several friends leave because of him or transferred. So pretty scary guy. He's also had done a lot for me and pushed me in lots of ways, and so I respect him in that way, but he just wasn't a kind guy at all. And so I go into his office and I sit down in the chair, and he's staring into my soul. He's ready for something, and he's like, "What's up?" And I was like, "Coach, I don't want to play football anymore." And he's like, "What?" And I was like, I just don't love it anymore, and my body hurts really bad. That was another reason too, is my body is not at max capacity anymore. So that's another reason. So he's like, "What?" And I'm just kind of giving him a little bit of a story, and I also really prayed about how can I tell him that he's kind of a part of also the reason why I don't want to be there anymore. And I was struggling with a way to say that without just telling him I don't like you, blah blah blah. Like the way you coach is terrible. Like I was, because for him, he's just gonna hear that and it's in one ear and out the other. So I kind of said what I needed to say and talked to him, and he's just staring at me. He doesn't say a word, and it's like, "This is the worst decision you're ever gonna make in your life." And like I in the moment I felt like that was true, but like I knew it wasn't, because just the amount of peace that I had with actually quitting and with going and talking to him, like no matter what happened or how he reacted, like I was so content, and I was so at peace with being able to do that because of God and His power and the comfort that He gave me. And so I finished that meeting. He stands up, and he's like walking over to me, and I think he's about to shake my hand. I stick my hand out, and he just grabbed the door, and I was like, "All right." So I walk out the door, and he's like, "Meet with so and so and so and so." I was already planning on it, and they weren't there yet either, so that was fun. So, and all their offices are like right next to each other. So I just go back downstairs. I'm like, "Oh my goodness!" Like I know as soon as I walk out this door, he's just gonna start telling everybody. And so I walked out the door, went downstairs for another 10 minutes, came back up. Both the coaches were there, and I had great meetings with them, and they're super understanding. And essentially told me if I ever needed anything that they were there for me, and that was kind of that. And so
Yes. Yes. So,
Let me ask you real quick. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Will you entertain any questions? Would you want those now?
Yeah, if you have any questions, come up to me. There's a lot more to that story. But yeah, feel free to come up and ask me.
So obviously, there's a lot of different pieces of courage that you can draw out of that. And I'm going to focus on maybe two different ideas. So going back, thinking about, I'm just going to pull it out. Talking about like enduring pain or hardship with resilience. Like, even before he went to college, I watched him spend so much time, effort, and energy training so that he could go play in college. And like enduring all that hardship every single time, loving it, knowing that this is what God has called him to do, and going into it and working, like is working his butt off every single day, because he knows that's what God wants him to do, and he has the courage to go do it. And even when it gets hard and miserable, he still spent an entire year like continuing to work hard, even when it started to become something he didn't even enjoy anymore. And that is an incredible amount of courage. And so that leads into the second thing, which maybe was the more obvious one, is as he's praying and like, God, I don't really love this anymore. Do you even want me here? Like, is this what you want for my life? Please lead me, please show me. And if it's not, please give me the strength, the courage, and the ability to go into my coach's office and tell him I can't do this anymore. I can't even imagine having that conversation with a coach, let alone at a university. That's insane. And so I wanted you to hear that kind of, like, that's a dangerous conversation, if you want to call it that. Like, you walk into his office and you sit down and you're talking. And so I wanted you to hear that story because I think it is a really awesome example of courage in like both senses, and also just an incredible story of like relying on God, asking, where are you leading me? Please show me, please give me the wisdom, please lead me. And then, I don't know if you heard in there, hopefully you caught it, the peace that came with the decision he made. Because of his reliance on God, because of his dependency and prayer on God, like he had to have God to make that decision, and God gave him peace with it, right? And so I just think that that's a beautiful like idea of courage, and I am going to really quickly contrast it with a story from the Bible.
Caleb, can I just
Yes,
make
go
a
ahead, please.
So I don't want it to be lost on you all, maybe just because maybe some of the dads have been there more often. You know, I can imagine being like a 10-year-old boy, or I was a 10-year-old boy one time, and I did something wrong, and I knew my mom told me I had to go see my dad and tell him what happened. Right? Can you know how hard it is to go face to face with someone? But Brennan could have just texted him, right? He could have called him on the phone. He could have told another player, and coach could have heard it through the grapevine that, you know, Brennan was leaving football. But man, he had the courage to go look somebody in the eye to eye, another man that he knew was going to be disappointed in what happened or in what he was going to tell him. And so that's a life lesson that I hope all of you guys take away. Like, you need to go and say something face to face, especially when it's hard or bad news or sad news, right? Like, it's easy to tell somebody, you know, something's really good, right? You send them a note, hey, this good thing happened, but it's really hard to give somebody bad news. And so face to face is the only really way to do that right, to do that in a way that honors that other person, that honors God. And so, Brennan, you know, I know I encouraged you to do that. I told you that that's what you needed to do, but you know, repeatedly going up to the office, not seeing those guys in the office, and the fear that you were experience and to still go through with it is just a mark of really, really strong courage. And so thank you for setting that example for all of us.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for drawing that part out too and emphasizing it. Yeah, that's awesome. I was so glad said he would share that story with you guys tonight. Yeah. So before we close, I was hoping I had asked the other people in our group, they wouldn't mind thinking of someone in their life that they consider courageous, and maybe kind of explaining why. Maybe you can kind of get a bigger, better idea of courage.
Yeah. So, I was thinking about this, and some of the first people I was thinking about were back when the COVID vaccine was being enforced on like military members and people that were working and things like that. We had some friends, if you guys know them, the Duncans, and I forget the other people's last name, but there was another young guy that didn't get the vaccine because they didn't feel it was right. And they were both flying F-35s, so they were flying like top of the line jets and were doing really good in their jobs. And the military told them to get they had to get the vaccine. And both people didn't think that it was right, and so they said that they wouldn't. And so the military didn't really know what to do with that. And because they were both good, basically fighter pilots, they didn't really know what to do. So they met with each other, and they eventually came to the conclusion that they had to either get it or they had to leave. And so I don't know. In that position, you would think, well, I'm going to lose my job. I'm going to lose this. I'm going to lose that. I'm going to lose a lot. I'm just gonna get this is a little vaccine, what harm could it do? And so from there, neither of them get the vaccine, and they still and so they don't get it, and the military basically, the younger guy, he gets kicked out and he can't be in the military anymore. And so then the other guy that was working, since he was higher up, they didn't really know what to do, and so he kind of stayed in, kind of didn't, and then was kind of kicked out for a little bit, and then kind of came back. But then eventually he got out, and I think he eventually retired. But yeah, so they both showed lots of courage in standing in what they believe in, and what is not right. So that's kind of the story that I have, and they're both not in the military anymore. So
yeah, that's a great example, and I wholeheartedly believe that with the people you're talking about, they had prayed about it, and God led them to that decision, and so that's what they believed in.
yeah.
And the only warning that I was just thinking of was, you do have to be careful that you are praying a lot and you are asking God a lot to show you the way, and not just, this is what I believe in, and so I'm going to be courageous for that. Because if it doesn't align with God or what His Word says in the Bible, then being courageous for it might do more harm than good, which is definitely not what you were talking about. But I decided. Do you have anything?
Yeah. Thinking of someone who's courageous made me think of, I was trying to think of different stories and ideas, and I was thinking about my grandpa, because a couple years ago my grandma got really sick with Alzheimer's, and over a period of a couple years my grandpa had to take care of her as she's slowly declining in memory and her ability to do anything. And even for me, seeing her for just a couple days or a couple months at a time, whenever I saw her, that was was really hard. But I can imagine how hard and how much courage it would take to get up every day and see your wife declining and not even being able to remember things. So I just think that's like an example of the trial type of courage, where he stuck it out under trials, and he had courage every day to go through with that trial.
And the resilience, right? Part of that.
Yeah, resilience, like honoring God through honoring his wife, no matter where she was in her life. That's awesome. Olivia, if you want, you can share.
Yeah. For me, it would probably like one person. There are a lot of people who are really courageous. Sorry, I'm gonna get a little bit emotional because it's about my grandpa who passed away a couple years ago, and I went on a trip with him, and it was really sad because I didn't get to come back with him, but my aunt and uncle worked really, really hard to try to keep him alive for the amount of time that the ambulance couldn't get there, but they tried really hard, and I know they did. And there were a lot of people who were there to comfort us, a lot of neighbors, and it was kind of hard being with other people because I was up in New Jersey. But it was really cool how much they helped him for the time that they could.
Yeah. Wow. That is an incredible example of courage, and even you sharing that.
Amen.
Really personal stories, incredible examples.
I want to say something about that
Go
man.
ahead, yes, please.
Yeah, I want to say something about him too, just because, when he came on this trip, he had every reason to not come. His back was bad, but he wanted to be with his grandchildren. And he was on this trip in his 70s. And then the last years of his life, he was very involved in saving babies on that bus. And he drove that Life on Wheels bus the last week he was alive, several times that week. And several hundreds of babies were saved while he was driving that bus. And he had great courage. He would pray in front of abortion clinic with passion. And then I had the privilege of going into prison ministry with him. I needed somebody to go with me, and we got to spend 8 months going into prisons and telling people about Christ. And he did that to the very end. And so I think you picked a perfect man to speak of courage, because he had great courage.
That's incredible. Zaid and Zebedee, if you guys have someone in mind, you're welcome to share. If you don't, it's okay.
Mine would probably be this guy named Mr. Justin. He's an FBI guy. Like how he would go into enemy lines. Like that would take a lot of courage. Face like bad guy. If I were to do that, I don't think I could ever do that. So that's like one of the things that I would want as courage.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he has a wife and kids now, and he still risked his life to save others and secure our freedom. That's awesome to us. Zebedee?
Right here.
Oh, yeah.
For courage, I would have to say Mr. Matt.
Yeah?
Like last year, when, the 2 kayaks flipped over and he helped them. It took a lot of courage to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would agree with you. I think you made a great choice as well. Awesome. So, I don't have anything else, and it's been a beautiful discussion and a beautiful time. Oh, yes. Yes, and then I think we could just close in prayers. Mr. Peterson, do you mind?
Yeah, that'd be great.